And he, of course, is the great Tim McManus on the Comcast Business Hotline. Hello, Timmy.
What's up, Mike? How you doing?
Fantastic. All right, Tim, let's handle the business of A.J. Brown. First of all, what happens here to fill this void?
Well, A.J. Brown is arguably their best player, Mike, so it's not something that's easily something that they can overcome. But, at the same time, the Eagles obviously have a plethora of weapons that they can use. And so essentially what it means is that Devontae Smith goes up into that primary role. And I think all eyes should be on Dallas Goedert for this one. I mean, we have heard how much, the emphasis on it's A.J. Brown and it's Devontae Smith and it's Dallas Goedert. Well, here's an opportunity where Goedert pulls into kind of that number 2 role. And they're also going to lean a little bit more on Saquon Barkley. So that's the benefit of the fact that they have all these different playmakers at their disposal. But when you don't have Brown, it's that sort of gravitational pull that gets pulled away, and then all of a sudden, so now their best cornerback, let's say it's A.J. Terrell, will have more eyes on Devontae Smith, which means that matchup is not as advantageous as it was at the beginning of the week when you thought that you had Brown. So it makes it a little bit harder sledding for Jalen Hurts, but one that they should be able to overcome against this defense.
All right, let's now look at stopping the run for the Eagles. I assume they're going to get a heavy dose of that with the Falcons tonight and then try to set up some play action. And they weren't that good against the run against Green Bay. What has to happen tonight?
The focus anyway is going to be on Bijan Robinson. I mean, when you heard Nick Sirianni talk this week, Mike, the amount of respect that they have for him and basically saying, like, when you show highlights of him, it reminded him when they showed the team last year of highlights of Saquon Barkley, somebody that can have that kind of effect. And so really you just have to put that focus on there anyway, because I don't know how much you're really threatened by Atlanta's pass game. Like right now you have Kirk Cousins who's working on a bad Achilles, or at least he's coming back from the Achilles. He doesn't look very mobile. If you saw the way that the Falcons went up against the Steelers, there just wasn't Cousins trying to get the ball out quick, and not much happening downfield. In other words, I don't know how much, the back seven has to be overly preoccupied with the threat of a deep pass game. So I think you load up the box. I think you keep the focus heavily on the one guy that can beat you, and that's Robinson. And so that means that the linebackers, so I thought, acquitted themselves pretty well in week 1 against Green Bay. Certainly Zach Bond did. They need that similar type of production this week to make sure that one of the best playmakers at the running back position in the NFL doesn't hurt.
Just one quick, and I know Bill has a couple questions for you, but Kirk Cousins on Monday Night Football. What? I don't get this. I really don't understand how he's so bad on Monday Night Football. What does that say to you? Nothing?
It's like the battle of the two QBs who don't seem to like Monday Night Football very much. Hurts' numbers aren't good either.
Yeah, you're right about that.
He's got 6 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. Seems like he's always sick, for these games. And then Cousins and the Falcons, my God. Those records, are dismal. And the chances that he improves that one tonight probably aren't great. Like if you see the way that he was operating that week 1 against Pittsburgh, like they weren't even putting him in play action out of like a regular snap. They had him in shotgun all the time. That's not really how he functions. He wasn't hardly under center at all. And even the practice footage that they were showing this week of like, here's Kirk Cousins on the move. Dude, he doesn't look like he's moving very much at all. So, it could be tough for him.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins definitely didn't look healthy, but what he did do was he got the ball out of his hands very quickly against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I want to see Bryce Huff, Nolan Smith, Josh Sweat get after him tonight, but do you expect him to get the ball out of his hands fast again?
I think so. I mean, I don't know that he has any really other options, Bill. I mean, because he doesn't have the mobility that he's accustomed to. It's not like he's ever a great runner, but usually can move more fluidly than he is right now. And so I don't think he's got much of a choice to. That being said, the Steelers were able to apply pressure, even with Cousins getting the ball out quick. And the same thing falls on this Eagles front for Monday Night Football. And everybody knows that Bryce Huff is kind of under the spotlight. He gets paid $17 million a year. He comes over, and he's blanked and on the stat sheet in week 1. There was bad turf in Sao Paulo. Everybody knows it. Did it affect the pass rush? I think so. But here now he's going up against Caleb McGarry, the right tackle who had a lot of problems against T.J. Watt last week. And nobody's expecting Bryce Huff to be T.J. Watt, but it does serve the point of, okay, here is a matchup opportunity for Philadelphia. Huff needs to show, and he was saying this week, the tape is better than what the stats showed. Well, now it needs to transition over. Now he needs to be the kind of factor that Howie Roseman was hoping would be when he signed him to that lucrative contract. That front is kind of a concern area for this team in general. Week 1 didn't do anything to really give everybody the peace of mind that they were hoping for. And so this would be a great opportunity if they can affect the game and get after kind of a statuesque Kirk Cousins. I think it would put a lot of people's minds at ease.
Timmy, looks like Vic Fangio to me looks like a very judgmental, overtly judgmental defensive coordinator, and he's got the clout to do that. I just don't get the impression he likes Huff. You're there every day. You get that sense at all?
Well, the one thing is he's so candid. I don't know if it's a dislike. It's just the way that it is. And so really right out of the chute, Mike, when we asked about Huff in training camp, he was talking about the prospects of him being a 3-down player, and he's not there yet.
Yeah.
Will he get there? Yeah, we hope so. We think so, but he's not there yet. And just consider the amount of money that he's making and the leap of faith that the front office took, where they felt confident, this is somebody that can be a 3-down player for him. And Fangio, the one thing that I respect is that it doesn't matter if he's one of the more highly priced players on the team. He's not going to play him just for that. Brandon Graham was getting as many snaps as he was. Nolan Smith was getting as many snaps as he was. And the same thing for Devin White. He comes in on that, the $4 million deal. The thought is he's going to be the starter. That was kind of the look throughout training camp, and then he just didn't earn it. And Fangio's going to tell you. So that's one thing that I'm really interested in to watch is the fact that he's so unvarnished with his opinions that, friction's going to happen at some point, whether it's with White or it's with Huff. Can you keep those guys kind of, on the straight and narrow and in lockstep with the defensive coordinator when the pressure really starts mounting on both of those respective players? It's something that I got my eye on because obviously there was some friction in Miami, and I'm just curious if there's what level there's going to be here.
It's a great point. It almost looks like he looks at Huff as that's a Howie endorsed guy, and his endorsed guy was Bond. It looks like there's some kind of disparity there in opinion.
Yeah, and I can tell you that unlike guys like Jonathan Gannon, things like that Fangio is very, as you would probably expect, honest and candid about his opinions with personnel. And so it already feels like, there have been moments where he's expressed himself about the personnel on defense, and maybe, it wasn't the most glowing of remarks, right? So that's going to happen with Fangio. That's what you get. There's that side to it. He's got this defense that half the league is copied. So he knows what he's doing. There's a baseline for competency that you're going to get with Fangio, but there's other stuff too. He's, because of the stage that he is in his career, he doesn't care to if he minces, he's not going to mince words. He's going to be very forthright. And so to a certain extent, it's almost like a bull in the china shop, which adds just another level of intrigue to the season.
Yeah, so does that work anymore in today's NFL? Maybe it does if you got the clout and you're successful.
So I had somebody from the Dolphins organization I was talking to when I was doing a piece on Fangio heading into the season, and the point that they made was we're going to be curious to see how he mixes in with the young players in particular. So, because to your point, there's an old school mentality that Fangio absolutely has. There's a lot of a new school sort of attitude in the NFL, and the younger players, by and large, are going to be accustomed to getting coached the way that Fangio is going to coach. In Miami, there was definitely players, as Drew Rosenhaus said right after they parted ways, the love lost. There wasn't any love lost between some of those guys, and so it's a fascinating dynamic of if it all goes well, obviously, if they're winning games, it's all good. But when they hit bumps in the road, adversity hits. then what does it look like? Just something to monitor as we move forward.
Tim, we're talking a lot about the Eagles' defense, but let's look at the Falcons' defense. How good are they? Because they looked pretty good last week, but was that because it was Justin Fields and the Steelers, or are they a good squad?
Well, we know that their safeties are certainly good, and so they're built from sort of the back to the front there, and the fact that Jesse Bates, there was a quote from the Steelers' offensive coordinator last week that basically the reason why, if you look at Justin Fields' throwing chart, there was 0 in the middle of the field, and that was out of deference to Bates, like out of respect, like we don't want to throw it there. And so with Jalen Hurts, he's thrown interceptions in 5 consecutive games. That's an NFL record currently. And so he's been a little bit more turnover prone than you would like. Over the field is something that he absolutely has to watch in this game. And then they added Judon, right? So Matthew Judon coming off the edge is something that Jordan Mailata probably primarily is going to have to deal with. And that's a matchup that you absolutely have to circle. So I wouldn't say it's like the best personnel group out there, but there certainly are some stars that can create headaches for you if you don't account for them properly.
All right, Tim.